Now we're working on number 19, which is a unit analysis, which I'm not sure we've done yet in class. So I want to change a certain rate that has yards per minute into a different rate, because I'm not good at thinking about speeds in yards per minute. I always talk about speeds in miles per hour. So we have to start with 14 yards for 4.3 minutes. Now, the secret to this process called unit analysis is that you can cancel words just like you can cancel numbers. So let me move to a new slide just as an example. If I do the 2/3 times 6/8, I could multiply across the top separately and the bottom separately and get 12 over 24, but then I have pretty big numbers. It's nicer to cancel and say the 2 and the 8 cancel, divide top by 2 and I get 1, divide bottom by 2 and I get 4. And then the 3 and the 6 cancel. 3 divided by 3 is 1, 6 divided by 3 is 2. And then when I multiply top and bottom, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 4 is 4. Now I only have to reduce a little bit. By the way, if you wanted to, you could also take this 2 and this 4 and cancel again. You could do your reducing a little earlier if you wanted. But we're all used to this idea that we can cancel with numbers. If there's one on the top and one on the bottom, then we can kind of cancel things. So we're going to do the same thing with words using our conversion rates. So we have a yards in the top. So to make it cancel, I need a yards in the bottom. What word do I put on top? Anything that makes sense. I could do feet into yards. I could do inches into yards. I could do miles into yards, like that. So what I want is miles to be on top. Do I know how many miles per yard or yards per mile? No. Do I know feet per mile? Okay, so let's get halfway there with feet. We know there's 3 feet in a yard. And now the yards have canceled out and they are gone. If we were to multiply across top and bottom separately right now, we would have feet per minute, which is a perfectly logical thing. It's just not what we want. So we keep going. So now we say, okay, we are not done. Feet was not what we wanted. Let's put feet per mile. And we know that 1 mile has 5,280 feet. If you had to look that up, you might as well have just looked up how many yards are in a mile and say it just that. But since we happen to know this, if I wasn't talking so much, this would be faster. I also, out of habit, make my slash marks always look a little different. And that's just so later at the end of the test, when I'm checking my work, then I can go back and say, wait, what was happening here? Okay, we are halfway done. We wanted miles per hour, and now we have miles on top and minutes on bottom, and all the rest of the words are on. So all we have to do is turn minutes into the hour that we want, and we'll be done. So we have minutes on the top. I'm sorry, we have minutes on the bottom, so we need
hours.
We want hours. Should I put hours on top or bottom?
Bottom.
Bottom.
Minutes gone.
And minutes gone. That way the minutes on top and the minutes on bottom can cancel.
So 60.
Exactly. 60 minutes is an hour. Now I'm very happy. I have miles on top and hours on the bottom, which is exactly what they asked me to do. So all of my thinking is now done. The calculator does all the rest of this. So you don't have to write all that I'm going to write, but just to be clear, on top we have 14 times 3 times 1 times 60, and all that's left is miles. And on the bottom, we have 4.3 times 1 times 5,280 times 1, and the only word that's left is hours. Sometimes it's worth a moment taking a test to write that all out, and other times it's not. Because the calculator, again, is doing all the work after we set things up. So what is 14 times 3 times 60? 14 times 3 times 60, 2520.
Mm,
4.3 times 5,280. Is 22704. Now this looks like garbage. It's actually true, but useless. At the same rate, if I wanted to go more than 2,000 miles, it would take me more than 22,000 hours. But that's silly. I'm not wanting that. I want to take this and make it into a unit rate. So just like the problem where we were looking at the unit rate for suburbia city, people per square mile. So we did people divided by square mile. So exactly the same thinking. Miles per hour. We're going to do the top divided by the bottom. And get a nicer number. So 2520 divided by my previous answer, and I get 0.11 more or less. So is the wonder snail very fast?
No.
No. About 1/10 of a mile per hour. If you ever take a chemistry class, intro to chemistry is doing this a whole lot.
Oh, really?
Yep. If you were good at this, intro to chemistry is a piece of cake. If you're measuring things in liters and milliliters and this many things evaporate per minute and you want it per second or back, well, it's a lot of this unit conversion.
It's
And
like,
never, this is about as hard as it can get. It took me 3 different fractions stuck on with multiplication. As a tangent, why am I allowed to do this? Let's look at this first one with the 3 feet per 1 yard. I can't just multiply something by 3. That changes it. Why am I allowed to do this? How do 3 feet and a yard compare to each other?
There's 3 feet in a yard.
Yeah, they're the same.
Um,
So any fraction that the top and the bottom are the same is really just 1. So all of these are actually fancy ways to write the number 1, and I'm allowed to multiply by 1. That doesn't change anything. So philosophically, that's what's happening, but you don't need to know that.